So this is very early. The people are just kind of leaving the park. They had this big sound machine that was supposed to cause like acoustic pain and make people run away.
Oh, the police, they have it in New York too.
Yeah.
I've heard it's quite
The
loud.
LARD, it's called.
Yeah.
I don't know what it
It's a
stands
weapon.
for.
It's a new type of stun weapon.
Yeah, so they what they're claiming, what they're alleging is that me and my co-defendant, this is the crazy thing, what they're alleging is my co-defendant and I sent out a Twitter, and this is what they're alleging, and that it said that there was a lawful order to disperse.
A lawful order to disperse.
On such and such a street.
Uh-huh.
You know, like I say on 38th Street.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, if that is true, if their given statement is true, there's a couple problems with that. One is, so we're saying what the police are saying for people that couldn't hear it.
Sure.
That the Twitter is providing information. The other is that, you know, that's not private, secret knowledge.
Right.
I mean, they're
There's nothing restrictive
you know,
about that.
they're reporting. And if anything, it probably
if a newspaper
aids.
reported it or a radio station reported
Well, and they
it.
did. The CNN had a live feed following these people.
Well, I can tell you,
throughout the
I was a news reporter for many years on radio, and I can remember one time, before cell phones even, I was on the pay phone, the protests of city college students who were protesting a hike in the tuition. Thousands of students came out. The police were driving them down Broadway near City Hall. They were crossing the street, and I was on the phone, live on the radio, WBAI, reporting exactly what the police were doing and saying live over the radio. Another time I sat in my home on my fire escape and saw 1,000 police evict 2 buildings full of squatters, and I reported in detail for an hour before, during, and an hour after that event on the radio. Many times I did things like that.
So what do you think is the motivation of arresting you over this? Because it does sound like it's either incredibly vague or not something illegal.
Well, I think it's part of a pattern, which is a very strange pattern, and I don't pretend to understand the motive. I mean, but when you look at it as a whole, I mean, who else was targeted in Pittsburgh specifically? We hear about, again, I was arrested before any of this happened, windows being broken, but we don't actually hear about that many people getting arrested for that. We hear about students getting arrested on the lawn and stuff. But who did they target very early? They raided the Seeds of Peace food bus. You know, they surrounded the eyewitness people that provide.
The food bus would have been folks who supply wholesome food to anybody who wants it, but particularly protesters and demonstrators or people who were marching could get a cup of soup while they're out there in the cold.
Yeah, and they raided.
An eyewitness, Eileen Clancy, we've talked to her quite a lot. She goes around and the Constitution and the Supreme Court has ruled you have every right, if you don't interfere with an arrest, to film it.
Right. You know, they arrested legal observers. You know, these are, you know, people trained by the NLG and the ACLU in Pittsburgh to go out and make sure that people's civil rights aren't violated. They raided this place called the Landslide, which is a farm that was housing a bunch of protesters, you know, like 2 days before the protest. You know, so it seems, and then you look at St. Paul, you know, again, eyewitness, indie media, the convergence space, the food people again, they have the communications people again.
That was the convention. Which one was in
Republican
convention?
National Convention. Right. So it seems like they have this strategy now of trying to disrupt the support services for people that want to express public dissent. They're less interested in catching people who may violate the law, but they're interested in disrupting, and I think the whole idea was
we have a call coming in. Want to try? We'll try it. We'll see. Because I'm interested in what you're saying, but let's give folks a try. And I really can't. Hello, you're on the air.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Hi, how you doing?
How are you?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. I actually once found myself in a similar situation as a guest. You know, there were 2 cops. One of them shoved his dick up my ass. The other one stuck a cop. They both jerked off on me, and it was
God.
big mess.
All right, we got a crank
sexual
there.
needs.
A sexual guy with some sexual needs.
On the show.
Right. He had to let it loose on the show. Well, you know, we are a lifestyle program ultimately. So let's go back on what I want to do in the few minutes that we have left. I want to talk about the international aspects of this, because you're talking about earlier about Moldova,
Yep.
all right, in China. There's been many protests that have happened where Twitter around the world, and I would say popular uprisings, some of them somewhat, anti their government and pro-U.S. foreign policy, and sometimes your government can be scummy and you can be anti your government and still fit in with U.S. foreign policy because they hate your government for some other reason,
Right.
as we've seen a lot of. So it gets confusing which side you're on, but everybody was out there saying, hooray for the Moldovans, hooray for the Ukrainians,
Right.
hooray for the Chinese. Why is all of a sudden Twitter a dirty word in America?
Well, and I think, people can go and Google the Alliance of Youth Movements. This is a interesting thing that started 2 years ago in New York, funded by the State Department and the Department of Defense, and all the panels were chaired by the Department of Homeland Security. And you can go onto their website and they will show you how to use Twitter for a social movement. They have this nice little video, and at the end they say, and you know what? Twitter was used, flash mobs were used to overthrow the Filipino government, and isn't that a good thing? And
That's on the Homeland Security website.
yeah, this is on the Alliance for Youth Movement's website, and they just had their last meeting in Mexico City last week, and they had a whole thing on Twitter. They support it. Repressive regimes do not like people being able to get information to each other, communicating.
Communication.
It could be newspapers, it could be free assembly, it could be radios. This is just the newest technology, and repressive regimes have a hard time with it. And so that's why Iran doesn't like it. That's why Moldova doesn't like it. That's why Guatemala doesn't like it. The question is, why does the U.S. that supports it in these other places don't here? As I've said before, I am fully waiting for the State Department, Hillary Clinton, who came out and supported publicly, Chuck Schumer, who came out and supported publicly there. I'm waiting for them to support my case. I expect they will do shortly. We will wait and
As soon as
see.
they hear.
Yes.
Right. Now, Elliot Madison, welcome. We only got a minute and a half left. You were just in court. What happened when you were in court? What happens next?
Just very quickly, we were raided a week later by the FBI and Joint Terrorist Task Force.
Where were you raided? Where?
Here in Queens, where I'm from, in New York. And they took a bunch of stuff, anywhere from stuffed toys to books to wall hangings.
That's when they actually brought the charges
So the
against you.
FBI.
No, this is after I had the charges.
Okay.
I haven't been charged federally.
Right, that's
I see.
state charges
Right, and
initially.
these are federal police
But
now.
how did the FBI get involved?
Well, the thing to remember is that both the warrant in Pennsylvania and the warrant here is secret and sealed. So this is very kind of classic repressive government regime kind of thing, where you don't know what the probable cause is. You don't get any evidence. They don't have to justify anything. So what we did is we turned around and sued them the very next day. And we said, this is unlawful. The warrant is too broad, and you have no right to come into us. Well, we haven't even been charged with anything federally. And
To
took
take things.
16 hours they were at my house.
Wow.
And, terrorized me and my roommates. We had a guest staying. They took his stuff. I mean, it was
And I
a
saw
total
the judge
overbreak.
said that they can't continue to even go through this
Right.
stuff.
So right now there's an injunction, and we will find out more what will happen on another Monday.
I see.
Right.
So you don't know what's happening. Marty Stolar is your attorney?
He's my attorney for the federal case. I have attorneys in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
For just going on Twitter, now you have half a dozen attorneys.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. Well, thank you very much for coming on and telling this terrible story. We want to
Yeah,
have you
stick
on
with
again
it. Yeah.
to keep us posted on
Sure.
how things develop. So,
Yeah, definitely keep in touch.
all right. Thanks, Mr. Madison, for
Yeah.
coming in and helping us out and clarifying this great injustice that I think is happening to you. And the FBI seems to be getting into the picture in order
Well, we'll want to hear more, definitely.
to frighten you from your activities, and others as well, which is really a sad state of affairs. So, thank you.
Thank you.